Hi, everybody, and welcome to another session of You've Got Mel, uh, in which I am currently interviewing myself. Last year, I interviewed over 120 wonderful people. It was great. I will continue to interview wonderful people. If you are a wonderful people and you'd like to be interviewed, especially if you are a published children's author, I'm delighted to interview you. But I'm happy to interview all kinds of people. Let me know. Just send me an email or WhatsApp or Facebook. Mel, I'm wonderful. Please interview me. And I will be glad to acquiesce. But in the meantime, I'm interviewing myself. Why am I doing that? Well, there's several reasons. One of them is because I'm trying to put a book together, and my friend Guido van Nispen thinks that I talk better than I write. So in the morning, I write the session that I want to deliver. And then in the afternoon, I deliver it without looking at my notes. And at some stage, I will compare what I've written and what I've talked about. Uh, and for the first time, I'm trying to follow some trajectory. And the trajectory here is what I've learned about having a successful, wonderful life. This is just me, my opinion, my story, what I've learned, and you are welcome to love it, share it, or hate it. I'm not charging you any money, so everything is fine. And let's recap where we've been. So, a wonderful life is based on three things: creating your own fate by making major decisions in your life, not staying in the same place forever, not doing the same thing forever. The second is to recruit your demons, not only to discover them, acknowledge them, and tame them, but also to recruit them for your own benefit as an incredible human being. And the third one, which is perhaps the most important, is acquiring skills. As many skills as you can in your lifetime, as many professions, as many languages, as many ideas. The more the merrier. And tomorrow, when I talk about thinking between the boxes, you'll see that the more you know, the more you've learned, the more you think about, the more skills you have, the better you are equipped to perform associative or bisociative or lateral thinking, which is the way that rock star thinkers, inventors, innovators look at life and come up with new ideas. And today, the subject is odd jobs. We're talking about acquiring skills, especially exceptional, unanticipated ones. There's several ways to do it. One, of course, is in the school system. And we've talked for a few days about the skills that I acquired, the special, unanticipated, zany ones, falling in love with poetry in grade 7 because of Mrs. Parkinson's contest of learning poems off by heart. And then in grade 9, Mrs. Basilov coming and asking us who wanted to learn Russian. And then the courses I took as an undergraduate and graduate student, which I've begun to talk about. These crazy Michigan courses that I took changed the course of my life, made me a successful scientist, and brought me to this day. There's several other ways. One is to be an autodidact. You can also teach yourself skills, especially these days on the internet. And there's another way that I'm going to talk about today, which is called odd jobs. Now, English is an odd language. When you say odd jobs, it's an expression. It means jobs that are occasional, the odd jobs. So growing up as a kid in Ottawa, odd jobs would be for me being a babysitter, mowing lawns in the winter, long winter in Ottawa, shoveling snow, being a newspaper delivery boy. What else? Picking fruit later on in my life, also as a young kid picking raspberries. And I have also down being a camp counselor. Really, one of the only regular odd jobs that I never had was being a waiter, and maybe that's a very good idea that I was never a waiter. But I was practically everything else growing up as a kid in Ottawa in a home where it was not only okay to have odd jobs, but if you didn't work at least part of the summer, that was not considered good in my father's eyes. You had to have an odd job, even if it was for a week or two. And the jobs that I'm going to talk about today are the second kind of odd jobs. The odd jobs, odd as in peculiar. The weird, wicked, zany jobs that you have growing up. Now, I know that these days it might be better to, at least people who have achieved some degree of success in their lives, want to pamper their kids, don't want them to work through school, might want them to study during the summer, go on vacation. Here in Israel, you have to go to the army. So we pamper, we spoil our kids. And my kids did not have as many odd jobs as I did. And I'm looking back, maybe that wasn't such a good thing. Because what happens when you have odd jobs? Wow, think of the skills, the unanticipated skills that you come up with, the things that you learn about life working for money, for somebody else's money. So I have a list, it's a partial list, more ideas are going to come to me, of all of the odd jobs, the odd, peculiar jobs that I had in my career, especially growing up, but also here in Israel. So I was a kindergarten assistant in Canada and then in Kibbutz Urim. I learned a lot. I think I fell in love with the mindset of 5-year-old children. I am, after all, a 5-year-old at heart. We'll talk about that more. It's important. And I think that my love of writing for children comes from these stints helping my mother out in kindergarten. I was a beekeeper in Kibbutz Urim. It taught me a lot about life. Let me tell you something. No matter how much protective gear you have on, if you get the bees angry, they sting right through. So I was working with a kid who really didn't know what he was doing, and he thought he was smoking the bees into a state of stupor. But actually what he did was get them very excited and angry, and they came at us. Something I never forgot. And it's also an important lesson to learn that you don't want to do something, and I, since that day, have not wanted to care for bees, even though I do like honey. Another odd job I had as a student in Jerusalem was as a ballet accompanist for young kids studying ballet. So I actually learned a few ballet steps, but what I learned basically is how much I hate playing classical music very slowly. And one day the teacher came to me and said, Mel, I have good news and I have bad news. The bad news is I'm firing you because you keep putting syncopes into the music and the little girls keep falling down and stumbling, and we can't have any of that in our ballet lesson. So I'm firing you. But the good news is you have a natural feel for syncope. Go study jazz. Now, of course, I had wanted to study jazz, but this is the first time that a mentor, that somebody had ever told me that I had some gift to study jazz, and of course that got me going. Fuller Brushman. I've written about that, and I'll talk about it another time, but I learned so much going from door to door selling Fuller brush items. One of the things was how to sell, how to get your foot in the door, how to tell stories, how to listen, how to be nice. Here's another thing, that I was a movie actor. Now, I always dreamt of having an IMDb profile and appearing in Hollywood. And a couple of years ago, somebody cast me, a friend, as a priest, Melech Rosenberg as a priest, in a zombie movie. So I've actually been in a feature film called Jerusalem with a Z, and I have a talking part, and I have an IMDb profile. I was also a dentist in a witch movie with Dudu Dotan, the late Dudu Dotan, my friend. So I've appeared in several movies. I was for 8 months a piano salesman here in Tel Aviv, which is a crazy story. And I almost stayed a piano salesman because I loved it so much. During high school, I spent a week soaking stamps in a stamp and coin store, thinking that I might have a future in stamp collecting. It was a terrible week. The guy cheated me. Dad had to come and threaten him. I learned a lot about odd jobs and stamp and coin collecting that 1 week in high school. And in the synagogue, in the Beth Shalom synagogue, growing up, I had not one, but two holy jobs. As a young soprano kid, I was in the choir. In the high holidays, which come up next week, Shana Tova, if you're celebrating, I would sing in my soprano voice with the choir. I still remember some of the song. V'chol, v'chol, v'chol ma'aminim, and so on. My voice changed and then I was out. But I was in the choir for several years, and one of the things that I couldn't believe was that the people in the choir were not so religious, especially on Yom Kippur. That was a real dissonance, a cognitive dissonance for me. It turns out that they were really good singers. And when I was in high school, I led junior congregation prayers. And then you have to be a young leader. You have to do a little praying, a little talking. You have to prepare something every Sabbath. But the big shock was that I got paid for both of these jobs. So, you know, you're serving God, and then at the end of the month, you get a paycheck. So, at least at that juncture in my life, in God, I did trust. God was a good employer. In the middle of my doctorate, without telling anybody, I went to work as a copywriter for a month in my friend's office. It wasn't the best month of my life, but I did learn that it's difficult to be a copywriter because I wanted to write copy and advertising for big companies, and my friend did not have those in his accounts. So I ended up doing tiny, boring stuff, which is actually what most copywriters do. And finally, one of the weirdest jobs I had one summer was working in a garage, a car garage, owned by a Jewish family. I was almost beaten to death. The people in the garage, these are the ones who prepare the cars, the mechanics or whatever, choked me almost to death, telling me it's too bad Hitler didn't kill all of you. And they were working in a Jewish garage. So 1 month later, I was in Israel, not looking back on these events that happened to me as a kid in Ottawa. Before we read a children's book, because we're going to read a children's book, I will share with you one more thought. All of these odd jobs help direct you through life. They have so many advantages. Not only do you make a little bit of money as a kid and you have a little bit of self-worth, they teach you so many things. And also the things that you do want to do and don't want to do. I always ask my students who want to know what to do with their lives. Write down the 10 things you don't want to do, the 10 professions that you don't want to have. Because everything you do want to do has a little bit of what you don't want. At the end of the day, you have to make a balance. So finally, I'm going to read to you now from a book that I've written, a children's book on the subject of odd jobs. Imagine that. And I even have it ready right here. It's called Nick's New Job. And we are going to read it together. What I'm going to ask you at the end for your homework is to try and figure out why I wrote it. It was illustrated so beautifully by Irena Brodesky. She didn't charge any money for it. Irena illustrates some of my children's books for love and passion, and she does such a wonderful job. Here we are. Nick was in a very good mood when he arrived home one sunny afternoon. He had lots of teeth, and his smile was so wide that you could see them all. I got the job at the Holy Molar Toothpaste Company, he told his wife. I am going to be in charge of filling all the toothpaste tubes. What a job. That night, Nick was so excited that he could not sleep at all. He pictured himself wearing his brand new lab coat. He would get just the right amount of paste into each and every tube. But how was he ever going to get the toothpaste into such a little hole? He went to the bathroom and squeezed the paste out of one tube. He then tried to push it back in, but no matter how hard he tried, the toothpaste stayed outside. He tried a spoon, he tried a straw, he tried blowing, he tried pushing and pulling, but no matter how hard he tried, the toothpaste stayed outside. I must practice first with bigger holes, he decided. He practiced on a shoe. That was easy. He soon ran out of toothpaste. No problem. Back to the store to buy some more. He soon filled the sinks, the chimney, and every pot and pan in the house. Wherever there was a hole, Nick filled it. On Monday, Nick appeared at work early. Can I start right now? He asked. I am ready. I have been practicing all weekend. Oh no, said the boss. We spent all weekend filling toothpaste for someone who bought every last tube. We don't have a single tube left to fill. Please come back in a few months. Nick's smile disappeared. But 1 week later, it was back and wider than ever. I just got a new job at the Willow Pillow Company, he told his wife. Let me guess, she answered. You'll be in charge of getting the feathers into each and every pillow. Nick nodded. How did you know? He asked. I just knew, she smiled. But this time, please, no practicing in the house. There's another ending to this book, which is the following. Nick eventually found another job. It had nothing to do with toothpaste. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I'm going to be talking a lot about jobs in the coming days, jobs that become obsolete, why you need to have more than one profession in order to succeed in the future. These books are published in English and Hebrew. And if any of you write or want to write children's books and want to learn how you can actually publish a children's book for $200, I will be happy to show you. I don't sell these books for profit, just for what they cost me. And here you are. Before we go, I want to close with one more idea. Most young Israelis want to be entrepreneurs. They want to come up with an idea, raise money, develop a product, sell it to millions, and make billions. The truth is that very few succeed. Some succeed, but these are 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, very few. I once asked one of the biggest American venture capitalists why we tell our students to pursue entrepreneurship with a passion, knowing that 99 times out of 100 they are going to fail financially. He said something very interesting. He said, you know, when you have a startup, you acquire so many skills. There's only a few people in the company. You have to read the contracts. You have to understand the finances. You have to read patent applications. You have to communicate in different languages. You have to create oral presentations. You have to sweep the floor at the end of the day. He said, yes, 99% and maybe more of startups fail and the entrepreneurs fail. But these young kids have developed so much acumen. They've learned so much in this process that they are the first ones to get hired by bigger high-tech companies. So there you have it. There's different ways to acquire skills. You can practice at home. You can fill every chimney in the house with toothpaste. I will be interested to learn your take on my story. Tomorrow, we will be talking about thinking between the boxes. So thanks so much for being here with me. This is a work in progress, and those dozens of people who watch me online and offline, bless you. Thank you very much for being part of my journey to try and figure out what I want to tell people about my life. Thank you so much. Toda, shalom. I should do this in Hebrew too.